is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Olivia Sandusky. Daytona Everett has the night off. Topping our news tonight, in-person classes could start in the near future. Starting tomorrow, Riverside County schools can apply for a waiver to hold in-person classes. Waivers can only be approved for grades ranging from transitional kindergarten through 6th grade. Health officials say our case rate has dropped enough where we can consider elementary school waivers. But what will the application process look like, and how soon before kids return in person? Our Nico Payne spoke to Riverside County public health officials and joins us now with an explanation. Nico.
Many families have reported issues with online learning since school started in the past couple of weeks. Add that to decreased coronavirus numbers in the county, and we could see kids back in the classroom soon. Riverside County is allowing students back in classrooms with certain restrictions. Each application will be evaluated by top health officials, and waivers will only be available for grades kinder through 6th right now. Officials say 7th through 12th grade may be implemented later, but we'll have to hold off for now.
At some point later on, that might be something that is possible, but right now that's just not in the cards.
Riverside County is still on the state's coronavirus watch list, which means in-person learning without a waiver is still prohibited. But officials say we are headed in the right direction and could soon meet criteria to be taken off the list.
The positivity rate is just somewhere between 10 and 12, and we want to get it to 8. The numbers are down. The hospitalizations are down, the ICU cases are down, so those are all looking good.
As for how soon we will see kids back in classes, it's unclear exactly how long the application process will take. But health officials say they will do their best to process applications as quickly as possible once they're received.
I don't know if it's a matter of days or a week or so, but we will process those applications once they start coming in Monday as quickly as possible. But again, Dr. Kaiser will be very thorough, and it's just not going to be a matter of the applications being reviewed quickly and as he said, this is not a rubber stamp.
And again, schools can apply for the waiver starting Monday. School districts who do not apply for the waiver will have to wait till Riverside County is off the state's watch list for 14 days. For NBC Palm Springs, I'm Nico Payne.
All right, thank you, Nico. One of the benefits of those waivers for in-person learning would be for children with special needs. With instruction currently online in every local public school district, some parents of special needs students fear their children will suffer the most.
I have 2 kids with special needs. One is severe and the other one has autism. And I was really concerned about the more severe child because it was a little bit hard last year with the distance learning with him to reach him.
Desert Sands says they have a new online program to help families with special needs children. And over the other side, in the eastern Coachella Valley, families are struggling with connectivity issues in their second week of remote learning. CVUSD is using their fleet of school buses as internet hotspots, but families tell us it's still not enough.
The first day was a fail. The internet is a big problem here because not a lot of families have access to good internet.
The district says 1,500 more hotspots should arrive soon for families who need them. And it seems College of the Desert's web services are having technical issues. COD posted this on their Instagram page saying that email and web services, including remote access, are all down. Staff says they will update when more information is available. Across the country, more colleges are reporting COVID clusters as students return to campus. 33 new cases were reported at Georgia Tech on Saturday, all linked to a fraternity house. Overall, Georgia Tech has reported 251 COVID-19 cases among students and staff as of Saturday. And more COVID-19 cases are reported at the University of North Carolina. Saturday, the university says 2 more clusters were discovered, one at a residence hall and another at a sorority house. Cases on campus have spiked in a matter of weeks since students returned for the fall semester. This has caused the school to move to online classes for that semester. And we'll take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. The county doesn't report numbers on weekends, so these are from Friday. There are over 49,000 cases in Riverside County. Some of those here in the Coachella Valley. You can see 927 deaths in the county, 281 of those in the valley. Today, President Trump announced what he's calling a historic breakthrough for COVID-19. The president authorized a treatment for the virus that involves using plasma donations from recovered patients to treat those who have the virus. Dan Sheneman reports.
President Trump announcing what he says is a major therapeutic breakthrough.
The FDA has issued an emergency use authorization, and that's such a powerful term, emergency use authorization for a treatment known as convalescent plasma.
The announcement comes after the White House suggested the Food and Drug Administration has delayed approval of a vaccine and therapeutics.
This is a powerful therapy that transfuses very, very strong antibodies from the blood of recovered patients to help treat patients battling a current infection.
Patients who recovered from COVID-19 have been donating plasma as part of ongoing studies.
I believe that this is one of the most noble things as just being human that we can do for other people.
Doctors and researchers say there is data the treatment can aid in the recovery of some patients.
There was a 35% improvement in survival, which is a significant clinical benefit.
Months after the pandemic began, a treatment that shows promise. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
We're taking a live look now, a beautiful evening from our Agua Caliente casino cam. We'll send it over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. A little sticky out there for your AccuWeather forecast.
Continuing the trend today, temperatures cooler than they were during the week. In fact, no heat advisories in place, but we couldn't do much about that mugginess. We're still rocking some dew points that are sitting in the 60 and 70 degree level, and that's keeping humidity in that very uncomfortable 30 and 40% range. Tracking some warming as we go into the new week. In fact, the ridge of high pressure that held us under its spell last week looks like it's going to expand once again, but it looks like it's going to move into a different position this time. And what that means is it could cut off some of that monsoonal flow and thus possibly some of that mugginess as well. We'll talk about that in the full forecast. Here's what we saw today. We saw some rough surf along the coast there, courtesy of what is left of Genevieve, now a post-tropical low, continuing to cause some havoc up and down the state here with the potential for some dry lightning. Meanwhile, we saw some showers and humidity off towards our east today. Still a possibility of that as we go into our new week. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air shows those numbers popping back up above 110, but it looks like we could start to track some drying right around midweek. We'll take a closer look coming up.
All right, looking forward to that. Massive and relentless California wildfires growing even larger with no end in sight. The smoke so thick, the haze is even hitting the Midwest. Steve Patterson is on the front lines and has the latest.
Tonight, the desperate battle to contain California's historic fires is now a race against time. Crews working around the clock to get a handle on some of the largest fires in state history, with a new looming threat in the forecast today. Fresh red flag warnings and another predicted bout of dry lightning storms. The same conditions were in place exactly 1 week ago. Thousands of lightning strikes and heavy winds spread flames across the state.
They could cause havoc on this fire and fires throughout the region 50 miles away.
Today, another grim milestone. The fires now totaling more than 1.1 million acres in size, a fire footprint visible from space. The president signing a disaster declaration, releasing federal aid to help exhausted crews on the ground. The National Guard and military arriving in California to relieve the strain on firefighters. In Northern California, where monster flames devoured homes, forced the evacuations of thousands, and killed at least 5 people. Will Cook is resorting to filling buckets of creek water in an effort to douse small fires in his neighborhood.
Driving around the neighborhood, checking properties and stuff, and looking for little spot fires that are flaring up.
But for some, it's already too late.
In shock, just total shock.
Brian Brannigan returned to his home to find ruins.
Beautiful home, 4-car garage, everything gone. And this fire just came so quick.
And nearby, a haunting sight. Hundreds of ancient trees inside California's oldest state park decimated. A permanent scar serving as a painful reminder of the fire's terrifying power. Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Such heartbreaking images. The National Guard is being deployed to help fight the fires. Over 100 personnel are being sent to help out as well. Fire officials are saying they'll take any help that they can get right now. And take a look at this. It's a video of one of those fires burning in Northern California, the LNU fire crossing over a road. You can see the flames dangerously close to that 2-lane highway. There are 3 major fires burning in Northern California that were all started by lightning earlier this week. The LNU fire has now burned close to 350,000 acres. It's only 21% contained. The SCU fire has burned over 340,000 acres. That's 10% contained. And the CZU fire has burned 71,000 acres. Tonight, only 8% contained. With all the wildfires burning up and down California, many residents are left wondering how they can help. We've seen videos on social media in the past couple of days of some brave residents attempting to fight the flames and help with evacuations. But according to officials, firefighters don't want anyone to get hurt. They're urging people to leave it to the professionals.
People that are running around out there in their cars or their motorcycles, it's a dangerous situation out there. So for your safety, please get out of that area and let us get in there and do what we need to do.
Now, looting has also been a concern in these evacuated areas. Sheriff's deputies say they'll be patrolling to look out for any suspicious activity. Earlier this week, a Palm Springs Fire Department crew was sent to the Bay Area to help. They're helping to inspect equipment, order repairs for equipment that's found unsafe, and look out for the overall safety of firefighters. And a team of Utah firefighters are also headed to Northern California to help battle those flames. A team of 35 firefighters from 8 different departments will be deployed for the next couple of weeks. Fire crews were told to be mindful of any social unrest or protest in areas they may be assigned to, and to be careful about catching or spreading coronavirus. Coming up after the break, the White House says they're ready to negotiate the post office bill. This as Democrats call for an investigation amid recent actions. Plus, the spotlight is back on Fort Hood over the disappearance of yet another soldier. We'll have details after the break. On Saturday, the House passed a bill that would give $25 billion in emergency funds to the U.S. Postal Service. It also reverses recent operational changes, as delays have made many nervous about getting election ballots in on time. And today, the White House is responding to yesterday's House vote. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows is saying they're willing to pass the things they agree on right now and keep negotiating the others.
My challenge to the speaker this morning would be this. If we agree on 5 or 6 things, let's go ahead and pass those. Why did you not do it yesterday? But let's go ahead and pass it. I spoke to the president early this morning. He's willing to sign that, including postal service reform and making sure that the money is there to make sure that deliveries of first-class mail are handled quickly, efficiently, and on time.
Also today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is announcing an investigation into the U.S. Postal Service. He says 3 members of the USPS Board of Governors will review policy changes that critics worry could affect the election. Schumer says the group will issue a report in 2 weeks.
In the past several days, we know that the postmaster has had to back off, but actions speak louder than words. And that's why we need an independent report. We'll get it. And we have to see then to follow up. This report from this election mail committee is going to outline everything that happened, what has been undone, retracted, and whether it's sufficient to get us the ballots on time.
Postmaster General Louis DeJoy promises he's suspending policy changes until after the election. Twitter put a warning notice on another one of President Trump's tweets. This one was about mail drop boxes and voting by mail. The president sent out a tweet this morning calling mail drop boxes a, quote, security disaster and a fraud. Twitter has since put a banner above the tweet saying the tweet violated the Twitter rules about civic and election integrity. White House counselor Kellyanne Conway has announced she will leave the Trump administration at the end of the month. In a statement today, she said she needs to focus more on her family and specifically on her children. She also said that this was her choice and she will announce her future plans soon. Preparations are underway as the Republican National Convention is set to take place in Charlotte tomorrow. Delegates arrived in the city on Friday, making their way to Uptown for the convention this week. The RNC will be split between the White House and Queen City and will officially begin Monday. President Trump will speak every day at the convention. First Lady Melania Trump is set to give a speech from the newly renovated Rose Garden on Tuesday, and Vice President Mike Pence will address the convention on Wednesday. Protesters hit the street of Charlotte as the city prepares for the start of the RNC. Late last night, protesters faced off with police. The group marched through traffic and chanted their opposition to the RNC. Charlotte police say they made at least 1 arrest. The spotlight is back on Fort Hood, this time over the disappearance of yet another soldier amid allegations of sexual abuse. Kathy Park has the details.
Tonight, the search intensifying for Elder Fernandez, a Fort Hood soldier last seen getting dropped off at his home by his staff sergeant Monday afternoon. The Army is now issuing alerts, asking for the public's help in locating him, adding they're concerned about his welfare but don't suspect foul play. Before he went missing, Army officials say Fernandez was a victim in an open investigation of abusive sexual misconduct and that he was transferred to a different unit so there would be no opportunities for reprisals. These last few days have become a nightmare for Ailina Fernandez.
What do you think about the Army's response in trying to find her son?
I feel like I should have more answers by now. They're not prioritizing missing soldier, one of their own.
The 23-year-old's disappearance comes just 4 months after another Fort Hood soldier vanished. Investigators found the remains of Vanessa Guillen late June. A suspect in her killing, a fellow soldier, died by suicide, and his girlfriend is accused of disposing Guillen's body.
Members of Congress, Army leaders, and even the president got involved in her case.
Earlier this month, the Army secretary said Fort Hood has one of the highest rates of violent crimes in the Army, including murder, sexual assault, and harassment. A full independent review has been launched to find out why.
We're going to put every resource and all of the energy we can, this entire institution, behind fixing these problems.
Ailina Fernandez flew in from Boston, desperate to reunite with her son, who she calls a happy soldier, dedicated to serving our country.
I don't want to find my son's body in the woods. I want to find my son alive. I want to find my son alive. I need to find my son alive.
Kathy Park, NBC News.
We're taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam on this Sunday night. Mike's got a look at your full forecast when we return. Stay with us. Let's take a live look now from our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. I don't know about you, but I am ready for a little change in the forecast. We'll send it on over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett to see if that's going to happen. Mike?
Temperatures staying in a very polite range as we went through the weekend. Now, as we look towards a new week here, we will see those numbers pop back up above 110 once again. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid, but there may be some good news coming midweek. We were touching on that earlier. We'll take another look here in a moment. Expecting a few showers to our south and up towards the mountains as well. Some rain offshore and a little less monsoonal flow off towards the east as well. Possibly a sign of things to come. Temperatures up and down the coast is still looking lovely. Some low to mid 70s in Vancouver and in Seattle. 72 in San Francisco, 101 in Billings. Yeah, it's warm along the Intermountain West. 87 in New York, 89 in Muggy in Miami. Watching those storm systems very carefully to see where they intend to go. Forecast models haven't exactly nailed it down quite yet, but there is the potential for active hurricanes in the Gulf. We'll have some updates for you tomorrow morning. 84 as well. We'll start off on Monday. We will get into that 111 range, and dew points will still be elevated, but at least we're not talking about 70s. Getting it down into the mid 60s is slightly better. It's still muggy though. 111 in Palm Springs, 114 in Indio, 103 in Joshua Tree, and we'll do our very best to keep it in the 70s up towards Big Bear. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows warmer temperatures for sure, but it looks like as we get towards Wednesday or Thursday, we could see that monsoonal flow cut off, and it could become warm and dry again.
Welcome back. Let's look at your NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. It's the final day of the PGA Northern Trust and the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. There's two more tournaments before a winner is crowned, taking home $15 million. This weekend belonged to Dustin Johnson. He finished 30 under to win the tournament, 11 shots better than second place finisher Harris English. Johnson's scorecard for the week, an impressive 67, 60, 64, and 63. Next week, the top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings will play in the BMW Championship. Today was also the 104th running of the Indianapolis 500, the Great American Race. It ran on the famed Brickyard track without fans in the stands. Takuma Sato took the win today, his second Indy 500 win. Scott Dixon finished second place with Graham Rahal in third. Now to the NFL, where they're experiencing a coronavirus testing issue. The league revealed today that several teams experienced false positives from one of their testing partners. Reports say that 77 tests from 11 teams came back positive on Saturday, but after retesting, all 77 were negative. Some teams canceled workouts and isolated players after receiving the positive results, but many were back on the field the next day after reports of false positives. An athletic director in Utah stops a high school football game because fans were not following coronavirus safety measures. At the end of the first quarter, the home team's athletic director said he would not let play continue until students returned to their assigned seats and put their face masks on. As the announcement was made, some people got off the bleachers, while others stayed in place. After fans complied, the game eventually resumed. And a sad milestone today. It would have been Kobe Bryant's 42nd birthday. Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others died in a tragic helicopter crash in Los Angeles in January. Many paying tribute to Kobe today, including the Dodgers. Before hosting the Rockies this afternoon, the team honored the late Laker great by wearing his jersey during pregame intros. Happy birthday, Kobe. We sure miss ya. That's it for sports. Coming up next, we'll revisit today's top stories, including some county schools possibly opening this week and a new plasma treatment for COVID-19. Plus, a popular Palm Springs event that attracts thousands will look a little different this year due to COVID-19. We'll tell you which event it is coming up. In-person classes could start in the near future. Tomorrow, Riverside County schools can apply for a waiver to hold in-person classes. Waivers can only be approved for grades ranging from transitional kindergarten through 6th grade. Health officials say our case rate has dropped enough where we can consider elementary school waivers. But what will the application process look like, and how soon before kids return in person? Well, our Nico Payne spoke to Riverside County public health officials and joins us now with an explanation. Good evening, Nico.
Many families have reported issues with online learning since school started in the past couple of weeks. Add that to decreased coronavirus numbers in the county, and we could see kids back in the classroom soon. Riverside County is allowing students back in classrooms with certain restrictions. Each application will be evaluated by top health officials, and waivers will only be available for grades kinder through 6th right now. Officials say 7th through 12th grade may be implemented later, but we'll have to hold off for now.
At some point later on, that might be something that is possible, but right now that's just not in the cards.
Riverside County is still on the state's coronavirus watch list, which means in-person learning without a waiver is still prohibited. But officials say we are headed in the right direction and could soon meet criteria to be taken off the list.
The positivity rate is just somewhere between 10 and 12, and we want to get it to 8. The numbers are down The hospitalizations are down, the ICU cases are down, so those are all looking good.
As for how soon we will see kids back in classes, it's unclear exactly how long the application process will take. But health officials say they will do their best to process applications as quickly as possible once they're received.
I don't know if it's a matter of days or a week or so, but we will process those applications once they start coming in Monday as quickly as possible. But again, Dr. Kaiser will be very thorough, and it's just not going to be a matter of the applications being reviewed quickly and as he said, this is not a rubber stamp.
And again, schools can apply for the waiver starting Monday. School districts who do not apply for the waiver will have to wait till Riverside County is off the state's watch list for 14 days. For NBC Palm Springs, I'm Nico Payne.
Thank you, Nico. We'll take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. The county doesn't report these numbers on the weekend, so these are from Friday. There are over 49,000 cases in Riverside County, 12,000 of those here in the Coachella Valley, 927 deaths in the county, 281 of those in the valley. Today, President Trump says there's a breakthrough for COVID-19. He issued an emergency use authorization for treatment using convalescent plasma. Recently, some hospitals say they're running out of plasma, while others have more people willing to donate than needed. The process involves using donations from recovered patients to treat those who have the virus.
FDA has issued an emergency use authorization, and that's such a powerful term, emergency use authorization for a treatment known as convalescent plasma. This is a powerful therapy that transfuses very, very strong antibodies from the blood of recovered patients to help treat patients battling a current infection.
Some critics of the treatment say it may be too soon to know its effectiveness, and more clinical trials are needed to make that determination. The Palm Springs Pride Parade will take place as a socially distanced car caravan this year. It's set to take place on November 7th. Participants from the same household will be able to drive together. Costumes and posters are allowed. However, the Palm Springs City Council must still approve the new coronavirus safety measures for the event to go forward. They're expected to review the plan next month. And with events canceled or altered across the valley because of the pandemic, our tourism-based economy is struggling. The problem is no one can say when things will get back to normal or what normal will look like. Our Kitty Alvarado has some answers on the future of these events.
When stay-at-home orders went into effect in March, the way we do things changed. No more mass gatherings. This severely impacted the valley's economy, where music festivals, conventions, and international events bring in millions of dollars. Before the pandemic, the city of Palm Springs had big plans.
We spent the better part of the last 10 years focused on building the Palm Springs brand and bringing Palm Springs back, the downtown mall, the convention center, the new hotel. And then with COVID, all of a sudden we got to stop.
Experts project restrictions may continue through next year, and that's the problem. No one can plan around this virus. Joshua Bonner, president of the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, says large events are a major part of the economy.
You're talking with a B, not an M, billions of dollars that we're losing in overall economic activity, not just to the local Coachella Valley, but to the region.
He chairs the county's Economic Recovery Task Force Large Event Gathering Committee. He's seen the images of the concert in the UK, but the list of issues to doing events safely is long.
How do you get them in? How do you get them out? What if they have to go to the restroom? What started out as a very safe venture, all of a sudden you've got a couple thousand people hanging out together and you're thinking, oh man, this isn't good.
Plus, he says investing in safety measures and cutting the amount of people that can attend won't generate enough profit to make the risk worth it.
Is it worth it for us just to wait for the vaccine to come rather than trying to invest in pods or whatever it may be to make this happen? So I do think we are in a little bit of a holding pattern right now.
Kitty Alvarado, NBC Palm Springs.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
We've got a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam. Temperatures haven't been too bad, but that humidity, that is a different story. We'll check in with NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett with a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
Continuing the trend today, temperatures cooler than they were during the week. In fact, no heat advisories in place, but we couldn't do much about that mugginess. We're still rocking some dew points that are sitting in the 60 and 70 degree level, and that's keeping humidity in that very uncomfortable 30 and 40% range. Tracking some warming as we go into the new week. In fact, the ridge of high pressure that held us under its spell last week looks like it's going to expand once again, but it looks like it's going to move into a different position this time. And what that means is it could cut off some of that monsoonal flow and thus possibly some of that mugginess as well. We'll talk about that in the full forecast. Here's what we saw today. We saw some rough surf along the coast there, courtesy of what is left of Genevieve, now a post-tropical low, continuing to cause some havoc up and down the state here with the potential for some dry lightning. Meanwhile, we saw some showers and humidity off towards our east today. Still a possibility of that as we go into our new week. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air shows those numbers popping back up above 110, but it looks like we could start to track some drying right around midweek. We'll take a closer look coming up.
A hurricane and a tropical storm are barreling towards the Gulf Coast, all within 48 hours of each other. This comes on the same week Louisiana is set to mark the somber 15-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And as Britt Conway reports, residents are not taking any chances.
A 1-2 punch, the Gulf Coast bracing for 2 storms. All that constant rain raising concerns for coastal flooding, storm surge, and isolated tornadoes.
The first 72 hours is on you. And that is because the second storm comes in so close that there may not be much of a window when we can fly search and rescue helicopters.
The growing threat has residents stocking up, preparing for power outages and evacuations.
They need to make sure, like the governor said, that they're taking action now. That window is closing quickly.
Hurricane Marco will be the first to make landfall. Forecasters say it's expected to hit Louisiana by Monday, and authorities are gearing up. Sandbags and generators are being delivered across the state, and nearly 200 floodgates are closed. And the pandemic isn't making it any easier.
Because of safety concerns associated with the pandemic, congregate sheltering will be a last resort for people who need to evacuate.
Meanwhile, 48 hours later, Tropical Storm Laura is also expected to strengthen to a hurricane and make landfall in Louisiana on Wednesday.
It is possible that there could be some spots within the state that will be measuring rainfall in 1 to 2 feet instead of in just inches.
Forecasters say 2 storms hitting the Gulf Coast is a rare occurrence. It's only happened twice in recorded history, once in 1933 and then again in 1959. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is on the way to the Middle East. He will try to further Israeli-Arab peace efforts after a historic agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Pompeo will meet with the Israeli Prime Minister. He'll also visit the UAE, Bahrain, and Sudan. More than 100,000 anti-government protesters rallied today in the capital of Belarus. They were demanding the resignation of the country's authoritarian president, as opponents called his re-election a fraud. NBC's Richard Engel reports from the streets of the capital, Minsk.
There is a battle underway here for control of this country, a battle of wills. This today is a show of strength by the demonstrators. They say they're in the majority and they want to show it. They believe that elections held here were stolen by the government, stolen by Alexander Lukashenko, and they have come out to say they won't accept it any longer and they want him to step down. There are risks to this. Demonstrators have been arrested, they have been beaten, they have been disappeared, and people here have told me they are frightened, but they have no other choice. The government, Alexander Lukashenko, says this is all a foreign plot, this is all a foreign conspiracy driven by the United States, driven by NATO. He has gone so far as to say that NATO has deployed troops to the border. Now, NATO has said that there is no aggression being staged toward this country, but he is clearly trying to whip up an air of hysteria and of nationalism. So there is this tug of war going, and where this goes, it is very hard to say. The protesters say they will keep it going. It is hard to know how long they can and whether they have the stamina to withstand what they expect will be a strong government crackdown. Richard Engel, NBC News, Minsk.
Coming up next, have you ever gone through airport security and realized you lost a couple of bills or coins? We'll tell you this staggering amount Americans lost to TSA last year. Plus, Manny the Movie Guy has a look at 2 movies now playing nationwide and whether they're worth your time and money.
What's up, everyone? I'm Taylor, and this week on Weekly Rundown, I have smiles to share for everyone. A story golf lovers will love, new friendships that'll make you say, "Aw," and some stories on love. I don't know what's gotten into me this week. I'll see you this Sunday after our evening news.
Healthcare workers, especially those on the front lines in the fight against coronavirus, are experiencing burnout at alarming rates. It's a silent crisis hiding in the shadow of the pandemic, and it can potentially harm patients, doctors, and nurses. Sarah Dolph has the story.
Healthcare workers in crisis.
We're physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically exhausted.
Pushed to the breaking point by coronavirus.
It doesn't stop, and we don't know when it's going to stop.
A recent study published in the Cleveland Clinic Journal of Medicine finds the prevalence of burnout is 40%, with median self-reported stress levels increasing from a 3 to an 8 among critical care providers. And that can lead to more medical errors, substance abuse, or self-harm. Dr. Lorna Breen died by suicide in May, overwhelmed, her family said, by caring for COVID patients.
I know my sister felt like she couldn't sit down. She couldn't stop working.
Burnout is not new, but it's happening faster and more frequently due to stressors including lack of PPE and fear of infecting loved ones.
It reaches a breaking point where you just can't take it anymore.
Dr. Orrin Friedman contracted coronavirus in March. When he recovered, he traveled to New York to treat COVID patients there. Now back in LA, he's treating cases at Cedars-Sinai.
One of the most difficult things that we face, that causes tremendous stress for us, is when we leave our jobs, we go back into our communities, and we see people out in the community that aren't socially distancing, aren't wearing masks, going about life as if we're not dealing with this pandemic.
A plea to the public to protect themselves and others and reduce the burden on frontline medical workers at imminent risk of burning out. Sarah Dolph, NBC News.
In consumer news, Doordash has added grocery delivery to its app. More than 10,000 items will be available for delivery in under an hour. In California, users will be able to order from Smart and Final. Doordash is also adding new partners to deliver prepared meals, but those are primarily in the Midwest and the East Coast so far. American Airlines is dropping flights to 15 U.S. cities in October. American Airlines is suspending those flights to smaller cities from October 7th through November 3rd. The airline says they're doing this because they've had low demand during the pandemic, which has been tough on them financially. Keep an eye on your money. TSA says it's kept $926,000 last year in change and cash. That's all left behind by travelers at airport checkpoints. The agency says it makes an effort to return lost money to travelers, but that it spends what's left. New York's JFK International Airport accounted for the most unclaimed cash in 2019 with more than $98,000. TSA says it has collected more than $3.5 million in forgotten change and cash over the years. The coronavirus pandemic has spurred big changes in how we live, work, and learn. Now, a growing number of parents are exploring alternate paths for their child's education. NBC's Liz McLaughlin has more.
This year, back to school might be back to home for many families.
A lot of them are feeling frustrated, so looking at homeschooling as an option puts them in more of the director's seat.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the National Homeschool Association says they're receiving as many as 3,400 requests for information each day.
You can make learning fit your lifestyle and your family and have it be truly amazing.
Megan Tauber road schools her 3 children, traveling about 5 months out of the year.
So they haven't read about history from textbooks so much as they have walked a mile in historical footsteps.
She uses national parks as a classroom to teach about history and science, not just to her own children, but to students around the world through a virtual platform called OutSchool.
OutSchool is a marketplace of over 50,000 classes that families can choose from.
Similar to the structure of Airbnb, the teachers set their own classes, prices, and schedule, providing live support and interaction with students.
We've actually seen user growth on the site grow by over 30 times.
An influx of interest from families exploring ways to supplement a child's current education or to create a full curriculum.
The whole future of education is changing.
As more parents take learning beyond the classroom. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
We'll take a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam. Mike's got your full forecast when we return. Stay with us. Take a live look from our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam as things tend to slow down here on our Sunday night. We'll send John over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett with a look at your full forecast.
Temperatures staying in a very polite range as we went through the weekend. Now, as we look towards a new week here, we will see those numbers pop back up above 110 once again. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid, but there may be some good news coming midweek. We were touching on that earlier. We'll take another look here in a moment. Expecting a few showers to our south and up towards the mountains as well. Some rain offshore and a little less monsoonal flow off towards the east as well. Possibly a sign of things to come. Temperatures up and down the coast is still looking lovely. Some low to mid 70s in Vancouver and in Seattle. 72 in San Francisco. 101 in Billings. Yeah, it's warm along the Intermountain West. 87 in New York. 89 in muggy in Miami. Watching those storm systems very carefully to see where they intend to go. Forecast models haven't exactly nailed it down quite yet, but there is the potential for active hurricanes in the Gulf. We'll have some updates for you tomorrow morning. 84 as well. We'll start off on Monday. We will get into that 111 range, and dew points will still be elevated, but at least we're not talking about 70s. Getting it down into the mid 60s is slightly better. It's still muggy though. 111 in Palm Springs, 114 in Indio, 103 in Joshua Tree, and we'll do our very best to keep it in the 70s up towards Big Bear. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows warmer temperatures for sure, but it looks like as we get towards Wednesday or Thursday, we could see that monsoonal flow cut off, and it could become warm and dry again.
In tonight's Showbiz Report, the one and only Ivan from Disney Plus and Unhinged are opening in theaters nationwide. So you got two new movies to choose from, but which one is worth your time and your money? Here's Manny, the movie guy, to help you answer that question.
Hello, movie buffs! Two big films for you. So let's begin with...
The one and only...
Coming to Disney Plus is this live-action CGI hybrid based on the new Barry Medal-winning children's novel by K.A. Applegate. It is loosely based on the real-life story of Ivan, the lowland gorilla who learned to paint while on public display at a shopping mall in Tacoma, Washington.
You see how important the voices can be.
Providing voice work are Oscar winners including Sam Rockwell as our hero Ivan, Angelina Jolie as Stella the elephant, and Helen Mirren as Snickers the poodle. But my favorite is Danny DeVito as Bob the stray dog.
Is that me?
The humans in the film are portrayed by Bryan Cranston as Mac, the owner of the Big Top Mall where Ivan and friends perform, and the precocious child actress Ariana Greenblatt as Julia, the girl who believes in Ivan.
How about that, huh?
Shades of Dumbo and, yes, Planet of the Apes permeate throughout the film, and parents take note, there's a subplot of death and dying, so be prepared. The one and only Ivan may be slow and laborious for the very young ones, but older kids may find truth and wisdom in Ivan's adventure. And in the end, this existential movie is all about the power of art. Ivan! And for that, the one and only Ivan gets 3 out of 4 Ivan and Friends kisses. And for grown-ups, we have Unhinged. Russell Crowe stars as a mentally unstable stranger terrorizing Rachel and family. Why? Because the poor woman did not apologize during a road rage incident. This simple premise is all you need to know to enjoy the movie. Violence and retribution is at the heart of the film, but this is more than just a road rage movie.
To me, it's a story of two people explosively meeting at the crossroads of their lives.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Director Derek Bort knows how to deliver the thrills, and he's blessed to have good performances, especially from the menacing Crow.
I don't even think you really know what a bad day is.
Unhinged is set to open in theaters nationwide, the first film to do so. Don't worry, the director says it will be safe, but when you go to the theaters,
drive safely.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
You're gonna need it.
And for that, Unhinged gets 3 out of 4 safe drivers kisses. I'm Manny the Movie Guy, and remember, drive safely.
Mexico City's floating gardens reopened to the public this weekend. Oh, look at that. Some call it the Venice of Mexico. The colorful boats and traditional floating gardens are a popular destination for both locals and tourists. They say, don't worry, health and safety protocols are in place. And don't forget, guys, check it out. We've got a QR code. We'll show you on the screen right there. You can point your camera at it and it'll pick it up, show you anything you missed in the show. We'll see you tonight at 11.